Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today, which is brought to you by our gold sponsor, NICE. Our session today is an incredibly exciting topic, and we're hearing more and more about it. This one's today about generative AI in the contact centre, obviously a topic that many of you are very keen to hear more about. In the spirit of reconciliation, Auscontact acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connection to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders here with us today. Today's webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes. And during that time, with the help of the wonderful Chris Main, we're going to hear more about generative AI, its applications, what we're actually seeing in the environment now, and it gives you a real opportunity to ask questions and learn a little bit more from an absolute expert. The session today itself, we've got 60 minutes. We'll have plenty of opportunity for you to ask questions and actually interact and get involved. As always, the best way for you to get more from these sessions is by having those questions and actually tapping in to the expertise on offer. You'll have the opportunity to add questions through either the QA feature or the chat feature. If you're anything like me, you are much better off writing them as you think of them, because I always have great questions that I never remember by the time we get to that formal Q&A session at the end. So make sure you keep them written down and ready to go. If the questions that you have are specific to what Chris is actually talking about, I'll jump in so we can make sure we actually cover that off and go a little bit deeper where you need or where you're looking for. But if they're related to something more general, we'll keep them for the end of the session. As always, and I know you're all old hats with this now, if you've got any issues or challenges with your technology, just use the raise hand feature on the control panel and one of the team will jump in and help you. Alternatively, your registration email has all of the contact numbers that you can jump in using and get back into the session, so you can revert back to that email if you need to. The other thing today, the best question. So again, it's always a great opportunity and an incentivizer. NICE always come with wonderful gifts, and today is no different. Chris will, after the session, be the judge on this one as well. So best question gets a fabulous Jabra E65 headset. So make sure you keep them coming in. As I said, we'll get Chris to be the final judge on that, and we'll get the information out to you when we send you all the details after the session. As always, there's no need to take too many notes. We'll record the session. It'll then be made available to you, and we'll also get Chris to give us some of the slides that make sense, and we'll distribute that afterwards to everybody. I'm now going to hand over to Chris. Chris is the solutions lead for analytics and AI at NICE. Again, it is always great having you here, Chris. I know you know this stuff and you live and breathe it. I'm going to hand over to you to get our session well and truly started. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian, and thanks for the introduction. So I'm just going to crank up my screen share, just that one, and then that one. All right, great. And Brian, if you just give us a thumbs up. Good to go. All right, so generative AI in the contact center. That's what we're going to be talking about, but what is that? What does it mean? And might it be relevant for you? So just a quick, more or less copy and paste of, I think, some of the blurb that was on the invite. So we're going to talk about the evolving role of AI in the contact center. What is Interaction Analytics 2.0? We'll touch on some of the new use cases that I've seen as being addressable now. So challenges that have always existed, I think, but we've never really been able to tackle effectively. And then I'll also give you a bit of a sneak peek at some future trends, just I guess generally in the industry, and also what we're up to here at NICE, because we are pouring money into R&D with a really big focus on artificial intelligence. Right, so the evolving role of AI in contact centers. So we're going to talk about that, but I think it's really relevant to understand actually the evolving role of contact centers, because they're not what they used to be. Certainly a contact center today is not what it was when I took my first role in a contact center, a good sort of crikey, 20 years ago, something like that. Yeah, do the maths. So let's talk about the evolving role of contact centers, and I hope that will give you some like a good grounding to understand some of the challenges that we can now address with new contact center tools. So customer expectations, and you can include I include myself as a customer, you can include yourself as a customer, have been changing dramatically. So anything that a customer tries to do, like call it a needs event, where they're trying to buy something, they're trying to resolve a problem, schedule a delivery or whatever the case is, they want to do that. They want to have their full range of needs events addressed. They want to do that on their channel of choice. We talk a lot about omni-channel, but from a single customer perspective, like that single channel of choice is really important. Very often they want to be able to self-service themselves. I know, like, it's my last resort actually picking up the phone and talking to another person. I'd rather just sort it out myself. And then, as much as I want to do that, if I do run into a problem trying to self-serve online, let me get to a different channel or a person if I need it, and absolutely make my experience unique and personable, and also like low effort and functional and productive. Like, let's solve the problem. Now, the evolving role of the contact center. So the research supports that really only like 19% of customer demands or customers, they'll proactively pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm having a problem with this. Can you change my address? My delivery's not arrived. Like, what's going on? And of course, that's tipping into your voice channel very often, and it's your highest cost channel. But I know when I have a problem, like my dishwasher's giving me an error, or like, my washing machine smells funny, or like something's not working, I'm going to Google it. That's where I'm going to start out. I'm going to hit the search engine and be like, my Samsung fridge is like showing this error code and it's not that cold. Like, what do I do? And very often get some, an FAQ or like walk through a self-service guide, or whatever the case is. But 81% of customers will start with a digital interaction first. So if you think about, well, what is a contact center? Most of your customers are contacting you through apps or via search engines on your website to try and solve a problem. So we need to somewhat, I think, reframe our definition of, what it is that we do, where are we working, where does the boundary between, customer world and a contact center end? And whether or not you've got like great knowledge available on your website, like how accessible is it? Have you got a really smart bot there that can help your customer get to that resolution faster and more effectively online? So yeah, just setting the scene there, like we are absolutely talking about, voice and assisted chat interactions, but we also want to talk about, this full perspective of like customer contact and how we can intervene when relevant. So let's just talk about the consumer experience. So again, we've spoken about the needs events for the research, purchasing, what's my order status, I'm going to arrange a delivery. And traditionally that was done in the voice channel, traditional call center, as I knew it back in the day. But of course, organizations have added sort of different capabilities to help customers resolve those needs, whether it's IVR, self-service, or a chat channel. Dropping in email, dropping in websites with FAQ bots, some of which, as I'm sure you've experienced, are not that great, they're very limited. And not only that, the number of channels that are available out in the world has really proliferated. Like, Apple Business Messaging, Google Messages, like WhatsApp, WeChat, so on and so forth. So that's a challenge as well for organizations. How do we plug into all of those? We want to meet customers in their single channel of choice. And so then we also actually think about the agent experience, because they've got needs events, they've got things that they need to get done, whether it's evaluations, they got to be scheduled, they need to find answers to their questions that they might not be able to answer when a customer asks something really niche or curly. And we want to give them effective tools to do their job. Interestingly, we talk a lot about like customer effort. I think it's also relevant to understand employee effort. How difficult or easy are you as an organization to work for from an employee perspective? This is all sort of going to be relevant when we understand, like, well, how can we apply AI to start solving some of these problems? And of course, organizations have plugged in multiple different tools and solutions to try and address some of these challenges. So case management tools like CRM, ERP, emails, quality management, WFM for scheduling, agent FAQ bots, and knowledge management searches. And again, just zooming out a bit, we get customer experience, consumer experience, agent experience. Let's also think about the business experience. What's the business trying to achieve? CSAT, acquisition, retention. I always think about it really simplistically, like businesses, they're trying to make money, they're trying to save money, they want to meet their legal and compliance obligations, and they want to improve customer experience and employee experience. Like 70,000 feet view, but once you start come out far enough, anything in a business will fall into one of those buckets. So that's kind of the landscape. That's what customers are trying to achieve. That's what agents are trying to achieve. That's what businesses are trying to achieve. And we've talked about all these different tools and capabilities that exist to try and address that. And one of the challenges is that organizations often end up themselves as being somewhat of an integrator to get all of these different capabilities to talk to each other. Now, this was a slide that one of our customers or prospects at the time showed to us. They said, this is what we've got in-house. This is what we've built to solve all of these problems. All these different vendors, all these different partners, all these different tools and capabilities. And we just spend so much time and effort trying to like hook it all together. It's like cross-wired like a Christmas tree. Please help. So what we've done is rationalize that. Well, what are the key functions and capabilities? We've mapped it to, and we've built, one unified platform around these 5 foundational needs. So you've got your entry points. How do customers get in the door to speak to you, whether it's digital or voice, etc. How do we orchestrate that journey and ensure we can get that customer to a resolution faster, whether it's, again, intelligent virtual agents, FAQ bots, or indeed escalating to an agent live in voice, smart self-service, give the agents all the tools that they need to do their job effectively, and have that complete performance management package so that we can give the agents the assistance that they need when they need it. I love a Venn diagram, but we've mapped it around consumer experience, business experience, and agent experience, just to help you understand like where do each of these 5 key pillars fall. Now, this is one of the unsung heroes, and I think this is something that organizations are really going to have to grapple with. Thinking back to that slide with like a million different applications and vendors and capabilities. If you have all of these things in one bubble, and you have all of your data like well structured in a unified data layer, so that the information that exists within your business becomes really accessible and it's well structured, not just for your employees, but we're here today to talk about AI. You're going to want to have really good data to plug your AI into, to teach it, to ensure it can get the answers to the questions that your employees and your agents are asking. Now, here at NICE, when we talk about AI, anything within the NICE portfolio that uses AI machine learning technologies, we call it Enlighten AI. That's our branding and catch-all term for NICE plus AI, Enlighten. And you can start to imagine you've got this really consistent, clear, well-structured data lake with all of these AI capabilities sitting inside that. And it's much, much easier for you as an organization to start to solve some of these problems of customer experience, meeting your strategic business objectives, and keeping your employees happy and empowering them to do their job. So, zoom in slightly, just a snapshot of what exists below each of these 5 key pillars. So we look at entry points, whether it's voice or search engine optimization, enhanced knowledge, which is kind of like projecting out your knowledge base onto your website and discoverable via Google. So when when customers do start Googling or hitting your website to solve problems, they can get plugged right into the best information available. I mentioned journey orchestration briefly. How do we understand who the customer is, their historical context, and get them to resolution? Smart self-service. I've got some really, I'll show you in a few slides' time how we help build better bots faster using AI. How do we empower agents? What does that look like? And then that complete performance package, which is plugging AI into your WFM forecasting and scheduling. How do we, if you've ever spent time in the WFM hot seat, like doing a forecast, and you really nerd out and get into it, there's like a ton of different like forecasting algorithms you can use. Like AI can help you understand the right forecasting algorithm or blend of algorithms to use, and moves you beyond having to be like a data scientist to get like a really great forecast, and let some of the AI do the heavy lifting for you. All right, now just one more slide on this kind of like background scene setting, then we'll drill into the detail a little bit more. So understanding those customer needs events, so research, purchasing, order status, getting scheduling, and so on. And how does that map against some of the capabilities we have? And it's mapped out here against like time and cost. So it's cheapest and easiest to, have that really good information available and discoverable to your customers on the internet. Connect with your customers proactively online when they need to, when, it seems like maybe they're having, a challenge navigating your website or finding an answer. Pull them into a digital channel, speak to a person or an intelligent virtual agent if required, or like start escalating through to more heavily assisted channels right into voice before you get to resolution. So and sort of dissected here with 80% of your customers will try to self-service online. So you as a contact center, when your customers are contacting you, on the website, online, whatever, you should be meeting them there to ensure that they're getting the answers that they need. You're containing them there and resolving their interaction there if possible, versus tipping into the contact center. And all of that, all of those different touch points, all of those different capabilities, we're going to have a chat now about, well, how do we do better in each of them using some generative AI tools? So background and context done. Evolving role of AI in the contact center, evolving role of contact centers. What does interaction analytics 2.0 even mean? Not just something I made up, I saw it on the internet. So I've spent, in my current role at NICE, I've been specializing in interaction analytics for about 4 years now. But I've been around, speech to text transcription, speech analytics for most of the last 10 or 12 years, I'd say. So I've got, quite a good viewpoint on, what's been happening in the industry, how are some of the new tools and capabilities changing what we can do. So if you if you've ever had a play around with speech analytics, and if you've not, you should. It's a lot of fun, near and dear to my heart. Traditionally, and even today now, speech analytics or text analytics is really about word spotting. So allow me to search through all of these recorded interactions and find keywords and phrases. And I can, this is a really simple use case, but like 20% of my calls, the customer said, I want to speak to a supervisor. 30% of my calls, they said in the first 60 seconds, help me with a password reset. So it's really around, spotting those keywords and phrases and aggregating that up to categorize your interactions, understand why people are contacting you, building out categories for issues, escalations, sales opportunities, etc. And, addressing other use cases like, did the agent ask for 5 points of ID? If it was a sales call, did they read out all of the mandatory disclosures? Did they say, you should get your own financial advice, etc., etc., etc.? Speech analytics is really, really good at that, and it's been doing it for a long time. But you can think of that as rules-based analytics, and it's really about specificity. Did the agent say the thing that we wanted them to say? What things did customers say? Let's aggregate that up and cross-reference it and analyze it, get some insights. And even today, like, there's a ton of business value that you can get from just going through that sort of traditional speech analytics process. But there are some use cases that have always existed that we've kind of struggled to address, I would say, with traditional speech analytics tools. And that's around things like, most quality forms will have some soft skills element. So did the agent build rapport with the customer? Did they demonstrate active listening skills or show empathy? And if you, as a contact center manager, come to me as a speech analyst to say, hey, Chris, can you go and build me some categories and find me some calls where the agent showed empathy or demonstrated active listening skills? That's a really, really big ask, to actually bordering on impossible, because they're not following a script. To demonstrate empathy or show active listening, the number of different ways that could happen is almost impossible to sort of manually define in a category. But it's actually a problem that's really, really solvable with AI and machine learning. So you think about it like this. So all of your interactions are being transcribed, speech to text. What you wind up with is, gigabytes, terabytes even, of like essentially text files of your recorded interactions. And in parallel, you've got your quality management team listening to those calls and tagging them with, agent showed active listening, demonstrated empathy, built rapport, asked effective questions. And that becomes a data set that AI and machine learning is just tailor-made for. So hundreds of thousands of interactions where active listening has been present, hundreds of thousands of interactions where building rapport is present. We can train a machine to understand what those calls sound like, so that when we show it new calls, your calls possibly, it'll score the calls against those models, and we can automate and understand, like, who are my agents that have got really strong soft skills? Because when those soft skills are present, the evidence shows that customer experience is good. Even if you're a customer that's called up and been really unhappy initially, if you connect with an agent that is listening to you, is asking the right questions, setting your expectations, giving you confidence basically that they understand your issue and they're going to see it through to a resolution, you'll have a good experience with that agent, despite the fact that maybe your overall brand experience is probably not that great to begin with. So it's always been a challenge for interaction analytics or analytics-driven quality management. How do we address those use cases? So we've done that. It says in the slide here, we've got over 1,000 discrete AI models that have been trained on actual customer data from a really broad cross-section of our customers globally, including customers here in Australia. So we can move beyond that word spotting to categorize interactions. Also just calling out, by the way, we can use the AI to automatically understand why the customer is calling. So we don't need necessarily to sit down and build out all those specific things. We can have the machine do it for us. So moving beyond just, word spotting categories, was this word or phrase present or not, to being able to, at the push of a button, more or less, understand what's happening with agent behavior, sales effectiveness, customer effort, sentiment, customer vulnerability. It's a really hot topic in the UK, here in Australia, and also in New Zealand. Lots of regulation coming down from the regulator on that particular topic. So there's a ton of new stuff that we can get insight on that we've never really been able to nail down with confidence and with completeness. So that for me is kind of interaction analytics 2.0, using AI to score interactions for things that we've never really been able to do before. And you get to this point and you're like, okay, that sounds great. Well, so what? Like, what do I do with all of this stuff? So let's address some new use cases. And I've got one slide here, and it's just a quick bit of housekeeping, because the Chat GPT meteor hit what, like 12 months ago? Has it been a year? And it just disrupted so many things. And we were going hard at AI, from research and development, but since Chat GPT came online, we've just reallocated so many resources and more funds to generative AI. But if you've had a play around with Chat GPT, and it's amazing, by the way, strongly recommend it. It is amazing, but it's also very often confidently and credibly quite incorrect, just wrong. It will lie, and you can make it lie very easily. So probably not appropriate to plug in actual Chat GPT to your business and your customers. But the capability of those, large language models, those GPT-style models, shouldn't be overlooked. And then if you start thinking, well, what if I had that capability and it wasn't trained on the wild west of the open internet? What if it was actually trained on my business data? So what if I set a GPT model across my knowledge management system and my speech-to-text transcripts, and actually all of the other workforce optimization data from WFM, performance management, quality, everything? Could I start just asking questions like in a chatbot that was looking at all of that, and it would tell me stuff? Yeah, can do that. Let's have a look. So what are the new use cases that we can address with generative AI and AI in general? So if you're an organization that is trying to go or on a digital transformation journey, you're looking to move traffic from your voice channel out to a digital channel, you might be wondering, well, what can we automate? What should we automate? And in fact, what are my customers even calling me about? Because I need to know that first before I can even make any of those decisions. And when customers do call up with a particular demand, how are they articulating that? Because I'm going to need to train my bot to understand all of those different ways that 20 different people might say, I want to change my address. And then I mentioned this previously, I think, but your intelligent virtual agents, your bots, just like agents, they need to be trained. So you're going to need to find really good training data. So what we propose, and this is an actual system, it's available today, Enlighten XO, stands for Experience Optimizer. We'll use analytics and AI to mine interactions you're handling manually in the contact center today, either on voice or on web chat, and will automatically categorize those interactions, those customer intents, will package up for you how the customers are articulating those intents, and we'll map out also the process flows that exist where the agents go through to get those customers to resolution. And essentially, the system's doing all this for us, and it will package all of that up in a really standardized format, all of the intents, all of the different utterances, the way they say it, and all of the process flows, and that can just be pushed out to any chatbot building tool. We'd love you to use our one, but it really is agnostic in terms of where it goes. And that allows you to build better bots faster, instead of sitting in a boardroom with 10 people with trying to put post-it notes on a whiteboard to understand intents, how they're saying it, and what are the process flows, which is it's analog, it's not data driven. Let us use AI on your interactions to understand what are the demands that you can automate, that you should automate, and will actually help you to automate them. So that's building better bots faster. Having a lot of conversations about that just now. Something else that I've been getting asked this for years, but it's always just been too expensive to do, and that is real-time interaction analytics and agent guidance. So I made this little GIF slide. This is an add-on to the the CX1 agent soft phone, and what it's doing is, as the interaction's happening in real time, it's transcribing those interactions. It's running the AI models across the top of those transcriptions, and it's assessing what's the customer sentiment score and what are the behaviors that underpin that customer sentiment score, like active listening's a bit in the red here, being empathetic, and it's essentially guiding the agent to exhibit better soft skills, which are then going to drive that customer experience outcome to a better spot, to deliver positive customer sentiment. And as much as I've got on the screen here, we can run soft skill AI agent behaviors in real time and prompt pop guidance to the agent or indeed the supervisor. This can also be configured to run on like keyword or phrase alerts, presence or absence of. So customer said, they're going bankrupt. We should we should identify this as a vulnerable customer. They've got, they're in financial distress. Make sure you follow the appropriate financial distress process. Transfer them to the right team, or reduce the rate, give them a payment holiday, whatever your process is. We can do that. Agents, the customer wants to make a card payment. Okay, follow the PCI compliant process, or transfer them to the card payment IVR option. Make sure you're not listening to that, etc. So all of these things are, in some senses, as I said, they've kind of always existed, but it's been just so hard and compute intensive to do that no organizations that I'm aware of have really adopted it. Certainly not in this region that I know. But we've got customers here in Melbourne, where I am today, using exactly what you see on the screen to guide the agents to a better customer experience outcome. Now, the next one is probably the one I'm most excited about. So let's just remember that we can automatically categorize intent. We can automatically identify, behaviors, actions, events, from the interaction and in real time. What's something else we could do with that? Well, just quickly introduce you to the concept of automatic call summarization. So you'll have agents today that when they finish the call, they'll drop into wrap time. They'll spend a couple of minutes writing up their after call notes in the CRM, and sometimes that's war and peace. Sometimes it's a really condensed sort of like acronyms and collapsed words and numbers that would be really hard to read. Our proposal would be, again, let's take a data-driven approach using AI to say, who's the customer? What was the customer sentiment? Why did they contact us as an organization? What were the outcomes? Was their inquiry resolved? Did we promise a callback? And what were the key events? And this is just a snapshot. There's like a very, very wide and deep, list of potential outcomes, events, contact reasons. And then let's also, taking this information and the transcript, let's feed that through a generative AI model to create this really friendly, kind of natural human-style language summary of the interaction. This then gets passed to the CRM. So if this customer calls back tomorrow and connects with me, this is the type of structured information that I see. So we contrast that to, actual agent notes, which are, inconsistent, possibly incomplete, using, really sort of difficult to understand words, towards a really consistent, structured, and complete summary automatically generated on every single call by AI. I think that's it's much better for the next agent, because they'll get really familiar with just skimming through this and be like, right, okay, I understand what happened in the last call. Let's move on with actually resolving your interaction, your inquiry, because you're calling back about it now. So great for the employee, great for the customer because they don't have to repeat themselves, and great for the business because the savings for this capability are absolutely bananas, and it's a really hard benefit. Whereas sometimes with interaction analytics, from a business perspective, as much as I love that space, you're really just finding problems to solve for the business. Like, oh look, we found a problem on the website. Look, every time this happens on the app, it breaks and they have to call us, and this process isn't working, and we've got these 3,000 agents are doing this and they should be doing that. And that can be challenging because it just means more work for people. Whereas this type of capability is really just like turning on something and then deleting out of every single call 30 seconds or a minute or however long your agents are spending writing up the notes. I've got the example business benefit model here for 1,000 agents. That's a fairly large contact center in terms of Australia, but we can just, using maths, we can chop that down to 100 agents and drop off a similar amount from the annual savings there. So this is being released like maybe even like next week. We've got a new release of CX1 coming, and this will be available for general consumption for our customers. I've run a number of proof of concepts on this in the last few months, and the results are really amazing, like really accurate, really clear summaries on every interaction. So if that interests you, please give us a shout. Okay, am I going for time? I need to just rattle through this, but really quickly, future trends, packaging all this up in a really smart way. We're calling it autopilot, which is projecting out your knowledge, your content from your knowledge management system and making it easily discoverable and searchable and on your website. Again, using generative AI, allowing customers, ChatGPT style, to ask a bot kind of simple, friendly questions like, my dishwasher smells like wet dogs. What do I do? And we'll go away and find, information that can solve that, or indeed, take them through a more structured transactional process if they actually need to do something like make a payment or whatever the case is. Similarly, in-house for you, applying that same type of capability using generative AI, real-time transcription, all of the AI models that we've built, all of the categorization models that we have to help your agents. We call it Agent Copilot, so they can ask questions again to your knowledge base without having to understand like the way the data is structured in your knowledge base. your really experienced agents will be able to like hotkey through that, no problem, but it should be easier. We can prompt them with guidance, alerts, so on and so forth. And the one that I'm most excited about is Enlighten Actions, which is the concept again of applying a GPT model to your contact center business data. So let's just have a super quick look. Just a couple of more slides. Enlighten Autopilot, it can work on your website, it can work on your app to give your customers like a really easy way to get to resolution. And again, reminding you that at least, you know, my opinion or my perspective is that the remit of the contact center has grown dramatically, and it should include you know, helping your customers get to that resolution on website, mobile, digital. Super quick snapshot of Enlighten Copilot. You know, this is typical sort of like soft phone here, you know, with a web chat, but off to the right, allowing the agent off to the side, just get guidance, ask questions of the knowledge base, and it will do that automatic call summarization at the end as well. Finally, Enlighten Actions. I've already introduced you to this concept, but I thought it might actually be cool. Give you a little look at it. So what's happening in my contact center? Like if as an organization you have speech analytics already, it can be kind of a pain to go and ask your speech analyst to go and run a new report or do some analysis. It's time consuming and it's quite often high effort. But if I've got a GPT model sitting across my contact center business data, what are my top 7 call topics with negative sentiment? Not sure if it likes typos or not, but I don't want to test it live with you. So, all right, so these are the top 7 call topics with negative sentiment. Great. I don't need to know anything about SQL or the nuances of, you know, how to build a speech analytics category. So let's visualize funds transfer calls. Cool. All right, so yeah. This funds transfer calls. So there's kind of like spider diagram of you know, size by volume and all the different, kind of got that like level 1 topic of like funds transfers, and beneath that you got like level 2, level 3 categories and intents. That just makes it like so easy to navigate. And I've just clicked into a couple here, and it's, you know, I've navigated around this spider diagram. And I'm like, okay, this is what's happening. I'm going to go for the big bubbles. What's happening there? What are the subtopics? Right down to understanding, well, what's the process flow that the agents are going through when they're, you know, dealing with these types of interactions. And I can export that out. Yeah, get some insights on it. So for me, this is one of the coolest things that GPT models are going to do for us, like me and you guys in the contact centers, to unlock new business insights, lower the threshold for accessing these business insights, and essentially, like, I reckon you could give this to anyone in the business and they could ask it questions and get really, you know, consistent, good, and actionable insight. So that was just a sneak peek. This is not released yet. I'm hoping for it early next year, and I'll be at the front of the line to get my hands on an actual real live version of it. So that brings us to a close. I hope that was interesting for you. I think, Fran, we're going to have some questions now. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm a little excited about what you've just shown us there. I think one of the biggest challenges for a lot of organizations is specifically around so much data, the steps and processes to actually turn that into something they can then use,
Yeah,
that
nobody's
actionable
short of
component.
data, that's for sure.
No,
Yeah.
nobody is. Look,
Yeah.
we've got a couple of questions here that we'll first jump onto, Chris. And Matt asked
Yeah.
earlier in the session, again, there's so much that we're hearing, and there's so many opportunities for this AI to assist. And you've actually then taken us through a couple of really, really good, sort of case studies and user examples. But is from your past experience, where's the best place to start? And Matt was specifically asking around whether it was about agent assistance or customer assistance. Where do you start? Because that's what a lot of organizations are grappling with. Where do I start?
Well, this may be a two-parter of this answer. So I spoke a little bit about Enlighten Experience Optimizer, which is mining your manual agent interactions to understand, well, what can I automate? What should I automate? Where do I get the most bang for my buck with automating, different intents or different, inquiries. So that's one. So we can help you really sort of accelerate your digital transformation. But to answer the question specifically, is it best to start with agent assistance or customer assistance? I'm going to say customer assistance, customer assistance. And the reason I say that, just to be really transparent, is from where I'm sitting here at NICE, that is the capability that we have that is most mature. Some of that really cool stuff around the autopilot and the co-pilot that is coming, it's not here yet, but the Enlighten Experience Optimizer, build better bots faster, mine your manual customer interactions for insight on what you can, what you should automate. I think that's a great place to start. And it's something that so many organizations struggle with, and they're paying consulting firms like money hand over fist for them to come in and just cookie cutter. Like you can automate like change of address, you can automate where's my nearest branch, and it's like, yeah, but it's not specific to me. It's not data driven. It's analog, and it's based on like the things that and like you can do, which is great, but it's only going to get you so far. That's the low-hanging fruit. You want to take a proper structured approach. Let's have a look at your data. Let's see what your customers are actually asking you and see what we can automate.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. I know that for a lot of organizations, they've actually seen the low-hanging fruit. They've dealt with it. It is about what's next. And I think, some of the frustration is that every group that comes in and does that consultation kind of overview, health check, whatever you call it, they keep using the examples of the low-hanging fruit. So for some organizations, it's quite challenging and frustrating because that stuff's gone already.
If I can share an anecdote. So I just finished a speech analytics proof of concept with a very big Australian organization on Monday. And they were, we looked at their interactions. They're like, why are customers calling? We're getting a lot of repeat calls. What's that about? We're getting a lot of transfers. What's the root cause of customer dissatisfaction? And I spent a long time, listening to calls, doing the analysis. And probably 5 or 6 years ago, we spoke a lot about from a workforce optimization perspective, because I was in WFM performance management at the time, like you can see this happening. Like organizations are going to automate out all of like the really sort of simple transactional demands, and what's going to be left is complex, high value, emotive interactions. And it's going to be much, much harder to be an agent, and as an organization to train and support those agents. And it was so interesting because that's exactly what I saw in this proof of concept, where we had 128,000 interactions to analyze. And it was just like a ton of fraud inquiries, so really like online issues that they'd been locked out, they couldn't self-serve online, and people stuck overseas, their cards have been blocked, etc. And yeah, it was just really, really interesting. The low-hanging fruit is gone. So how do you get your self-service to the next level?
Yeah, no, definitely agree. I've got a couple more questions here. I am mindful of time. So
Go for it.
Matthew, again, was just in relation to, the training component, and the accuracy of the AI results will only be as good as the data provided, obviously. How much
Mm.
internal effort is required in making sure that the data is in a format ready for the AI tools to absorb
Mm.
and use? And obviously, for some organisations, there's a bit of work involved in actually getting that data ready.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, on your side, customer side, like none actually. So if you can give us your interactions, like your call recordings, then we'll do the rest because we will transcribe it very accurately. And I've been around speech to text transcription for a long time, and I guess the state of the nation of that particular domain in the last 18 or even 12 months has just it's gone through the roof. It used to be the case that I'd respond to RFPs and the customer would state speech to text transcription needs to be at least 80% accurate. Like if you read an 80% accurate speech to text transcription, it's pretty sketchy. But now it's like it needs to be 95% accurate,
Yeah.
your speech to text transcription. And we can do that because applying large language models and new techniques. And sorry, just to answer that question, that speech to text transcription is the input for a lot of this AI stuff that we have, and we feel we can do that really, really accurately today. Yeah.
No, that's really good. A question here from Karen in relation to the time and resourcing needed to stand something like this up initially and then to
Mm.
manage it ongoing. I know how
Mm.
long is a piece of string, so there's going to be some real dependencies there, obviously.
Sure. So look, I've covered off like quite a few different solutions, some of which
Mm.
exist today, some of which are coming. Um, if I take the example of the automatic call summarization, that if that's something, if you're a CX1 customer, if you're using a cloud contact center solution, we can turn that on for you, like, and it will probably a bit of admin. That's what will take the longest, like doing the paperwork around it. But yeah, we can turn it on like I want to say overnight, but let's call it a week. Just want
It's
to go
quick.
through a workflow. Yeah, that should have said that. Thanks, Fred.
Interesting question here. Do you think that the technology will eventually replace agents or result in changes to how a call center operates and the jobs people do? And I think you touched on it before, what's
Mm.
remaining for
Mm.
organizations is often complex, but it's also often multi-topic and about the net effect
Mm.
of an individual and
Yeah,
a whole lot of circumstances as opposed to just one thing. And we're certainly seeing
yeah.
organizations stepping into investing more in that high end complexity and actually
Hmm.
recognizing the relationship build and the value there with customer retention and things like that. So
Yeah.
as far as technology replacing contact centers,
Mm.
probably what we're seeing is that it will continue to challenge them to evolve. But what's your views on that?
It's such a big question.
Mm,
And we've been hearing, in this space for the last 20 years that,
yeah.
voice
We won't
traffic's going
need
to
call
go away.
centers. Yeah.
It's gonna be all self-service. We'll do it on the IVR. We'll do it on the chatbot, and it just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
I've spoken to so many of the biggest organizations, 10,000 agents, and they're like, in 18 months' time, we're gonna have 2,000 agents. Like, no, you're not. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So yeah, will AI replace a lot of functions? Yeah, probably. I guess I'm still trying to form an opinion on AI in some senses. Like how far is it going to go? And in our domain, like in like audio and like film and TV, are we going to be able to like create content that is showing people doing things and in places that they didn't do and they weren't there? Um, I don't know. Like how far is
And
it going to
you
go?
touched on fraud
Yeah,
before. I
yeah,
know a lot of organisations, their biggest concern is, fraud around AI and how they actually protect and maintain. We're seeing
yeah.
organisations go down, go under because of a lack of, I guess, awareness
Mm,
and focus on security. So
yeah,
there might be, it might be a bit of a watch this space, I think, as
yeah.
far
So
as,
I think I think very often it's just about doing what you're already doing, but better and faster. So you might be able to strip out some failure demand, drive out your digital containment a bit. Personally, I still see a role for humans in the loop. But,
Yep.
I
I would agree with that.
I'll just a couple more questions here, and I'll wrap
specifically
it.
about that end. Yeah.
So automatic call summarization sounds interesting. How quickly can the summary be created for reference and future use? So the speech to text transcription is the dependency. It runs 3 or maybe 4 seconds behind real time. It's not real time because if it's truly real time, then the engine has slightly less context to understand like what's being said. So yeah, 3 or 4 seconds, and then I'm going to say less than 5 seconds after the call finishes, that summary will pop into the softphone for review by the agent. And I think I'm being generous there, saying
Pretty impressive.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
I think it's less than that. And is there an additional cost for tools such as automatic call summarization for existing customers of CX1? Yes, there will be. But please reach out to us to understand what that is. I think it's like a per agent cost, and then there might be maybe like a small setup cost.
And look, I think certainly where we see such huge potential with things like that auto summarization is, that we're seeing such attrition in the network, in the broader environment. How do we actually create safety rails that support and engage staff, give that experience, but equally, how do we improve some of the consistency that comes from, or the lack of consistency that can be a byproduct of high turnover? So there's some other really, really interesting things that can change the whole operating model for organizations
100%.
in relation to how you support yes, it's focused on customer, but actually it's about sort of supporting that employee engagement and interaction process at the same time.
100%. I just have one more point to raise, and it was just prompted me that last question. So automatic call summarization is dropping into CX1. I've mentioned CX1 quite a few times on this call. It's our cloud contact center. I just want to be really clear with everyone that there's not a dependency to have CX1. So if you've got a different flavor of call center technology and you've got nothing NICE, from NICE whatsoever, we can still do automatic call summarization for you. We can still do that sort of build better bots faster with Enlighten XO, all that stuff. So yeah, please don't be put off by the fact that you don't have anything in-house from NICE today. We can still help you with all this fun stuff.
Fantastic. Chris, I'm mindful of time. We've had a lot of really good questions there. Obviously, there's still a lot to learn and a lot to hear about, particularly as more of these user cases emerge, and can't wait to hear more about what is launching next year. I think it sounds as that, as you've talked about that next operation. Awesome. Yep, definitely. Thanks everybody for coming along. Thank you, Chris, as always. It's fantastic hearing from you. And we'll send out the recording link and more information, including who wins the best questions. So thanks all. Fantastic session again. Talk soon.
Oh, thanks everyone. Thanks for coming along.
Thanks, Chris. See ya.
Cheers. Bye.